For the second straight game, the Colorado Avalanche have lost 4-0. What's going on with that? Where's all the scoring? So we'll talk about these last couple games for the Avs. And Cale Makar could have been a serious injury, but we avoided disaster there. A lot to get to on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter or X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube, over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Definitely subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. You become one of our special friends and insiders, and we'll read your comments on air like we will do a little bit later from our subtext people on this last game with the Buffalo Sabres. Let's jump into it here, sir. The Avs with consecutive 4-0 losses. The first one was against Pittsburgh. This one is against Buffalo. The Pittsburgh game, I want to say, I guess comparing the two games, I kind of feel I liked how the Avalanche played better in this game than against Pittsburgh. But really, in the end, it doesn't matter because you're not getting goals. And this is coming after the game that we went to in Long Island, where they scored 7. Sure, 2 of them were empty netters. Okay, if you want to take those away, they still scored 5. That's still good. You've gone from that to donuts for 2 games in a row. And this is not a team that should be getting shut out 2 games in a row. We'll start there. That can't happen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's it's funny that you mentioned that they haven't scored since we've been there. I knew my suitcase felt a little heavier coming back, and I think I took their scoring ability. And no,
yeah,
it's frustrating. That's Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And after the Pittsburgh loss, we were all kind of rallying the troops like, hey, at least here comes Buffalo. This is going to be easy. And it wasn't.
Well,
it was.
I don't think it was going to be easy. Because Buffalo's a good team. Let's not kid ourselves. But where they
Well,
are in the standings is not where they're at.
I
you
say
thought
that
they would turn it around.
I say that as a collective, everyone in the YouTube comments. It was just all of us kind of trying to get over that loss together. Like, oh, we got Buffalo. We got Buffalo. Well, Buffalo came and went, and guess what? The score is the same as it was in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the efforts and how it felt watching that game. I got the same feeling in both games. How we were talking about that full 60 minutes for the initial 6-0 that start, the full 60-minute effort, and just this confidence in the team. There is no confidence in the team.
I'm not there yet, man.
No, it's. I'm talking about. I'm talking individual efforts. I'm talking individual efforts. It just lacks some cohesion. I don't know.
Definitely. That's true. That's true.
When in those initial early games, you felt like, oh, these lines are rolling. They're going to come back. I don't know which line I'm supposed to be excited about right now. You're not getting anything
the
from
fourth
anyone.
line. The fourth line is where it's at right now.
Exactly.
Everybody else is just they're going through their struggles. The game started off, I thought, well for the Avalanche. And then, man, if a goal can turn the tide, there's your example of it, because Buffalo just started. They got, it's almost like they got their legs and into the game, and then they scored, and it was one of those goals where you're like, man, you were really doing nothing to earn that goal or get that goal, but once you did, they turned it around. And Buffalo was on the ball for the rest of that game. And it's not like the Avalanche were not. And it was a pretty, I want to say, tight game, but the last couple games is not like the couple games that have, or the way that the Avalanche can play where they are in control and they are in command. That has not happened. You're fighting for everything that you're you're trying to get. And again, you have to give credit towards the other team for doing that because they are trying to, and they're gonna force you to to beat them. And again, when the Avalanche had opportunities, they couldn't break through. Now you've had Tristan Jarry, who he's their number one goalie, but he's not like this all-world goalie where you can't score on him. He shut you out. And now you have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who never had a shutout in his career. Granted, it's a young career, but he gets you for his first career shutout. And if you want to back this thing up, and I know how we were saying they looked really good in that San Jose game. It was just Mackenzie Blackwood was playing, but that is another game where you struggled to score, even though you had 50 plus shots on goal. So the goal scoring is where my concern is. The loss is the loss. You're gonna have more of them. It's just like, and if you lost this game 4-3, you'd be like, all right, this is at least the scoring was there. We can button some things up, and away we go. To be shut out, that's where my concern is. The effort is, as I feel, is there. I don't think this team is just packing it in. But when you hit these, it's like, writer's block. You just can't get the puck. Now that is creeping. That doubt might maybe very slightly maybe is creeping into like, man, not are we going to get one? They're going to score. Now it's when are like it's with every shot, you're just hoping it goes in now, not knowing it's going in, because you're in a funk right now. You're in a slump. And I know it's only 2 games and you'll break out of it. And it's great that you're going home. But no, the last 2 games, it's just been frustrating more than anything. It's not that I think the Avs have lost their touch and lost their mojo and are not confident in themselves. It's just frustrating. You're gonna go through this, and you don't want to go through it in October, but you are, and that's just the long and the short of it right now for me.
Yeah, I'm tired of having the conversation about how teams like the Penguins and the Sabres don't deserve goals, but they're getting them. And then they have good greasy goals. They're getting them. This roster top to bottom should be falling into goals. Like we spent this whole offseason talking about the incredible scoring ability. And let's just not even talk about the new acquisitions with Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Cale Makar. Often talked about as the best trio in the NHL right now. They should not be putting up goose eggs against teams where the deserve-o-meter is off the chart, where everything statistically, like this is get back to business. And there's just that lack of, like, it's not just the shots aren't going in when passes aren't tape to tape and you're whiffing on shots. The game has gone from the puck in front of you to between the ears, and you could see it in the Avalanche play. And we're not going to have the conversation about Georgiev and his rest when nobody else in front of you is scoring.
Yeah, it's not him. It's beyond that. Where is it? What were they? 0 for 5 on power play today? 0 for 6? 0 for 6. It just can't happen.
0 for 11.
It just cannot happen to go 0 for. Yeah, great. You held them. They were 0 for 3 on the power play. But to go and it's here you go. One of the goals of the keys to the game that I put up on social media was Buffalo, and it's early sample size obviously, but up to this point we're towards the bottom of the league in blocked shots. Okay, so we should be able to get some shots through. And not only did you only get 23 shots on goal, they blocked 21 shots. So what do you look at that as? Do you look at it as like, well, that's bucking the trend for the Sabres, or they're trying to improve on that because they should be better at it? Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. I think it's part of the season where teams are still adjusting and fine tuning things. And because the Avalanche got out to that hot 6-0 start, even though it wasn't pretty in all of it, you were 6-0.
Yeah. And
now it's you've come back down to earth a little bit. Expected, not the way you wanted to. You don't want to get shut out twice. But now, okay, now where do we make these corrections? They all know it. You see the press conferences and stuff afterwards. They know like this can't continue. But do you press and make this offer go even more, like for more periods? Or do you just settle down and play your game that you know has been successful, and things has to steer in your way sooner or later?
I think the 21 block shots and the 0 for on it, if you're considering the Pittsburgh game, that's 0 for 11 on the power play. You have a man advantage. It sounds like they're not taking good shot selection. You could see that too. You could see that
Yeah.
there are no good shot selections, and the shots they're getting, they're not quality, and they're not taking the amount that you're like. You don't feel that Avalanche onslaught, and they're just firing it as soon as they get it, and they're not settling it down and taking control of the game. They're letting the game control them, and you feel it when you watch these games.
I will bring up the money puck. Here you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll bring that up next. Let's get a quick break in here, and then I'll bring up that shot selection that you're talking about. Yeah, it just shows in the stats. It's pretty easy to see. So we will talk about that coming up next. Let's hear from Game Time, sir, in the Game Time app. And you should not have to worry when you are buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last minute deals, all in pricing, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Kyle and I have been talking about that game that we just went to in Long Island. Game Time is exactly what we used when we bought our tickets. Very, very easy to use.
Oh, it was quick. I was done in just a couple minutes.
It's nice. And the all-in pricing is great. You just see the price in the corner, and you know that is the price you are going to pay. Cannot beat that. Along with that view from all the seats. As you're scrolling, it's right there. You don't have to go into another link to see the view. It's right there on the main page as you're scrolling through. It's beautiful. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create the account and redeem the code Locked On NHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, you mentioned shot selection. Yeah, it seems like everything for the Avalanche is like just they have to work at. Things are not coming easy for them. You know, they have all the skill in the world, but they're not creating, and they're not leaving a pass where putting it on the tape of their teammate that has a great line of sight and can bury something. And this is on Money Puck. For the Avs, they had 9 medium danger chances, high danger shot attempts, just one. And that for a team as skilled as they are, and that's on 6 power plays too, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's just not, you're not going to win like that. You're not going to win like that.
And I think that's the real frustrating thing about watching this team right now. It's like this team is aging like Benjamin Button. Like this feels like the first game of the season, the past 2 games.
Yeah.
Like they came out the gate so hot, and just we talked about, wow, line 3 looks really good tonight. Line 2, wow, we got Ryjo going, 2 goals, wow, in 2 games. This is what you want to see. And then everybody just stopped, and it's gone to not facilitating and making the plays. Like you talked about, over on the power play, you have the man advantage. Nobody's pressuring you. You could slow down. You could pass your shot open, and they're not taking those shots. And they're swallowing the puck. And a lot of times on that power play, you'll see it passed out of the zone, and then you have to reset. And then here comes the patented drop back.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating. And if the Avalanche would have dropped this game 4-1, you're at least building off of something. But this is back-to-back 4-0 shutouts. It's a little concerning, and you want to see the Avs. Home cooking is great. They're coming back. We can maybe do something with the Ball Arena crowd, but my goodness, they have to figure something out now.
Oh, they do, and they know that they do. But and Luukkonen was great. What I was impressed with him was his rebound control. Avs could not, like, he was not letting anything bounce off him, where the Avs could have been, that Johnny on the spot goal where they're just right there. They clean up the grease work and you got a goal. They couldn't even get that. It was tough. I don't know, man. Like it is, that's, like I said, the most concerning thing to me is the no goals at all. And
Yeah.
for the second straight game, it was when the Avs got an opportunity and didn't connect, you felt like, man, I don't know when the next one's coming. So to me, that's just because you're just not driving plays, you're not creating plays, you're not creating lanes. It's just we're going through the motions and hoping somebody's gonna. We hope they screw up, so we have a guy that's wide open for a good looking shot, rather than you being the enforcers and imposing your will and creating offensive chances.
And I'm going to raise you one point right here, Chris. And I think this is the moment that it really stuck out to me. We miss Gabe Landeskog. We miss his presence, his leadership, and there's no captain on the team. And we talked about everydayers know we talked about this in the offseason. How does Nathan MacKinnon step up to that pseudo leadership role? Getting a 10-minute misconduct for chirping with a ref after a sketchy hit, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
We'll talk about it now.
when your team is down, this is one of those things for Nathan MacKinnon. When everything's going wrong, that's the guy you're turning to get things going on this team. And you can't do that as you're cussing the ref out going into the locker room.
I would say you're half correct there. The other part of it is like, that's exactly what I want from Nathan MacKinnon. I get like, yeah, it's tough to get a 10-minute misconduct. That clearly doesn't help your team. But you know, like when if things are going your way, guys will just drop gloves just to get something going. I don't think Nathan MacKinnon was chirping at the refs to get his team going. I think he did it because he was genuinely angry. Nothing was called on that play. And we were going at it with a couple of people on social media about it. And it you know, it's whatever fan base that you have your allegiance to. Is Buffalo fans think nothing was wrong with it from the most part. I'm sure there's some that say, yeah, that was a little iffy, I'm sure. But those fans don't come over to the Avalanche pages to say that. You get the ones who say like Cale Makar lost an edge. You're clearly looking at through blinded eyes. It was a bad play by Kyle Okposo. And to have zero penalty on it, I don't fault Nathan MacKinnon at all for going after the refs. And that shows you how laughable the refs are if you're going to stand there and let that happen. And then when someone is mad at you for doing it, you're going to, you know, turn to like a child and say, well, you're yelling at us, so I'm going to give you a 10-minute, a 2 and a 10 for that. Get out of here with that. That right there is ridiculous. The play was also ridiculous. Was it the most egregious penalty I've ever seen in my life? No. Is it a penalty? If you don't think that's a penalty, welcome to watching hockey. This is how the game is played. That is a penalty. So do I think he deserved to get kicked out of the game for that? No, I don't. But I think it's skirting the line of dirty because you are nowhere near that play. The Avs are on a power play when that happened. And, you know, you cross-checked him on his hip. Wasn't hard, but you don't have to do it hard when he's skating the way he's skating. And that's what causes him to slam into the boards. And for a little while, Avalanche Nation was like, Makar's out for the year.
Yeah.
He twisted something or strained something, and it's a minor miracle he returned to that game. But he didn't look the same when he came back.
And, you know, in those instances, especially when you're down like you are and you can't get anything going, that's where fighting is beneficial.
Exactly.
You could fire them up, and I would rather take a 5 and put Josh Manson in the box
Any
than
day.
10 minutes of no Nathan MacKinnon if you can't score.
And you heard Devon Toews say it after the game. In the locker room, he was asked, everybody was asked about it. Nobody really likes it on the Avalanche, except for Cale Makar. He's the one who maybe minimized it the most. But everybody at Devon Toews he wasn't happy about the hit, and he wasn't happy the Avs didn't respond to the hit. And he said,
we signed him.
What's that?
It's a good thing we signed Taylor when we did.
I don't have the direct quote, but he said, I don't like the hit and I don't like our response.
Yeah.
And what he means is he doesn't like their non-response. And even though Cale Makar came back, I don't think you just let that slide. No. I mean, it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, he came back, all is well. No, that was a dangerous play. Again, not the most egregious hit I've seen. I'm not going down that road. Do I think he needs to be suspended? I'm not even going down that road. But I find it hard to believe that people can't agree with the fact that that was a clear as day penalty, and the ref swallowed the whistle on it.
And it's funny, after the Kraken game, we remembered Cale's exit the entire offseason and started the game with that fight, and nobody took up for Cale in this one. I found that
I don't like that stuff, man.
Scratching.
And if you want to call me like old school with how hockey, I'm not the type that's like, oh, we have to take fighting out of the game. No, I don't want to do that. I think it's a big part of the game, and this is why. If you want players to police themselves, then this is when they should police themselves. And why nothing happened, I don't know. So no scoring is a concern, and standing up for one of the top 3 players in the league is just as concerning to me. I think that needs to be talked about. And if I'm Cale Makar right now, I'm probably angry at my teammates. I know I am. He came like they ended that second on a power play. They ended the first with a power play going into the second, and then the second on a power play going into the third. And that's when he came back to the bench, was to start the third. And there was still over a minute, I think. Yeah, I think there was like a minute and 30 seconds on a power play that he wasn't in on. When I saw that, you're like, that's not, I'm sure they're being cautious, but you have a whole third period to play here. Is this going to be one of those things where it's he wakes up in the morning and it hurts just a little bit more? So he says he's fine. He looked fine in the post-game press conferences, but you don't know. That was a hard hit into the boards.
And a long time to get up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, he did not pop right back up. So, and when he was trying to skate back, looked like he was favoring the one side. And you're like, oh, dude, this is not good at all. But he came back. Now let's just see if he can, the next couple of days, nothing tightens up or they don't discover something that, hey, Cogliano came back and he had a broken neck. And we didn't find that out to the next day either. So, all right. We got a sound check to get to, and some of our people over on Subtext had some things to say about the game. I'm going to bring those up. Let me just make sure we got the right one. Yep. All right. So we're going to get to that right here in a minute. Oh, hang on. We're going to bring this up here. Things are moving around on my screen right now, Kyle. Wow, it's Halloween. We're definitely in, and the computer has a mind of its own right now. So I don't know. Yeah, I think
is this where I could get you into an Apple product?
Oh no. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. All right, we got FanDuel here for everybody. You can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. How about those Broncos, Mr.
Let's go,
Shaggy Von Du? Wow,
let's ride.
Hey, I even put it up on Twitter. It was like, this is not how I thought this day was going to go, and it was the the screenshots of the Avalanche official page and the Broncos official page and the scores. Like, no, did not see this coming at all. But we were the beneficiary of I guess what people would call a trap game. So right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bets. That's $150 if your team wins, which the Denver Broncos just did. So you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. There's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over, under, so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, so we got some subtext people here. I got to log into it real quick, but what do you think? Do you think where do you think these conversations are going to go with our subtext
I think
people?
And especially when by the time the episode drops, I feel like the consensus is, how's Cale? How's he feeling? And then we're going to be on Cale watch until the puck drops against St. Louis.
I think you're right on that. I'm curious for Monday if we're going to hear anything out of
and then
the Avs camp. Yeah,
it's somebody to speak up and say, hey, this is unacceptable, our level of play, and somebody to take a leadership role, whether it's Mikko, whether it's Nate, whether it's Cale, whether it's Taser, say, hey, this is the final straw. We can't go through games like this anymore, especially with the stretch we have coming up. We have to get it together. And I need somebody to be a voice behind that. And I feel like everybody in the subtext is going to be echoing those sentiments.
So this is from Madam Battleaxe, and I think the emotion is running high for her. She's like, I got a lot of thoughts, and none of them are ladylike, is what she said, with angry emojis. I said, why are we going back into old habits? We've lost 2 games on the road in a row with the same score. Our power play is dang near non-existent. We can't stay out of the penalty box. Sure. We have the Blues coming up. We can't do this against St. Louis. There's just too much there, and any crack whatsoever, the Blues are going to eat us up.
Yep.
But hey, I mean, you shouldn't think that the Blues could give you some problems, but hey, like Jordan Binnington wants to, he gets up for these games. I'm assuming
the Penguins lost 3 games in a row, and Buffalo's Buffalo, and they were reeling too. St. Louis lives for games like this against Colorado.
Sure, definitely. We got Vargar here. He says the team can't right the ship, just like last season. Things go bad and they can't get back on track. They get frustrated. It's a lack of leadership. Also, this continues the Avs tradition of making middle of the road goalies look like stars. That is true. Like we were kind of talking about that before. Like, yeah, Tristan Jarry, I guess you could say middle of the road, maybe a little bit above the middle of the road. But yeah, Pekka Luukkonen is not their start. I think he's their 3rd goalie, if I'm correct. And the Mackenzie Blackwood thing, obviously. So that is a problem. That definitely is a problem. That you should those goalies, you should be having no problem getting some pucks past them, and the Avs just finding a way. And he's right. This has been going on for a couple of years now.
That should be on the tagline of every Avalanche brochure, making you pay $2 extra million for your goalie every year.
He also said he thought that the Sabres coming out in those uniforms, everything was in their favor right off the bat.
When I saw that, the puck drop, I saw they were in those jerseys. I was like, well, this is going to be difficult for me.
I like them, and I'm in the minority here. I like them. I don't love them. Yeah, I think they're good. I think they're cool looking, but people are just like go crazy over those things.
It's fish stick, and then that Sabres jersey. I have that Sabres jersey hanging on my wall over there with Dominic Hasek. I love that jersey.
It's nice. It's a nice one. Easton says, why has it got to be so ugly now? I wouldn't be surprised. We have so many new players. It has to be the growing pains. And this goes back to the Avs starting off so hot. And I say hot as far as the record goes. We were just like, oh, this team, they're gelling immediately. But he's right. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for the team. Like there is still more that this team, there is a lot of new guys on this team. So the 6-0 start from a fan point of view might have been the worst thing to happen, because you were just like, oh, these guys got it. They figured it out. They brought in like veterans, and they did. And, they didn't bring in like this young crop of guys that is going to take a long time to figure. No, they brought in guys and they know what they're doing, and away they go. And we're seeing now that, no, that's not 100% true. Are there some games in those first 6 that maybe they shouldn't have won? Probably, but they pulled it out. And even that is like, oh, they got it all figured out already in 6 games. And no. So there is some truth to what he's saying. I like what he's saying there.
Chris, you and Easton, I think you nailed it right there. I think that sums it up. Like, the Avalanche haven't had to figure it out. Every other team in the league isn't going through their growing pains, and we're catching everybody figuring it out. And now the Avalanche are behind, and they have to figure it out now, because they just went business as usual and took care of everybody in their growing pains. But when their revenge games come back around, it's going to be a different story. That 6-0, I would like to see the second chance against these teams if the Avalanche can't figure it out.
And finally, Tanya, and she sent a picture. She's at, or I think it's over now. Yeah, she was at the Nuggets game. She said, at least they're winning. And that was in Oklahoma City. She sent a picture where her seats were. So
let's go.
Good for you, Tanya. So the Nuggets won. The Broncos won. Avalanche didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And the Rockies probably lost somehow.
It's
they win the World Series.
Yeah, we got the Rangers and the Diamondbacks in the World Series. What kind of
Right.
upside down world is this?
What is going on? All right, so join up on Subtext if you want to, have your thoughts on the game read. We'll do that here. Link is in the show notes below. Last thing to get to, that's our sound check, and this is something kind of been doing for a couple years now. Most recent game, we pick a song, put it up on a Spotify playlist. So just go over to Spotify, search LOA sound check. We got volume number 3 is what we're doing right now. So song that best describes the game. Kyle, what do you got?
This one.
Oh, hold on. Let me set this up because I feel like I know where you're going with this. If you follow us on social media, Kyle has, and being a Broncos fan, I'm a little angry. Kyle has been sucked into the Swiftyverse, and he's a fan. Are you considered a fan now? Are you a Swifty? Are you in?
I am Swifty Von Doom.
And what? And explain to people why you like. What? How has this happened?
I have
How
seen
is the
Rob
Metallica
Zombie.
fan?
I have seen
Yeah.
Metallica. I have seen Hootie and the Blowfish. I've seen Backstreet Boys. I went and
Yeah.
saw the Eras Tour concert movie. And you want to talk about performance? It changed everything. I went in wanting to hate that performance, and I was just astounded.
You were being a good dad. You were bringing your daughter and your girlfriend, and you got sucked in. Wow! And I warned you on social media, if you ever add a Swift song to our sound check, I don't know what I was going to do, but I just didn't think you were going to do it. But
Well,
here
whatever
we
it is, go ahead and do it, baby.
Indeed.com. I think we're
here we go.
Oh boy, what is this?
Sound check. Death by 1,000 Paper Cuts from the one and the only Taylor Swift.
That's a song she has?
Yes.
Man, Taylor, that's dark.
Hey, she's got some dark stuff. Some
Yeah?
really hit you in the gut stuff. But Death by 1,000 Paper Cuts. The
Why are you going
Avalanche,
with that? Yeah.
they can't get out their own way. It's like
it is a pretty good pick, man. I gotta say, it's a pretty good song pick.
You can't get back to business as usual if you're constantly getting your way. Taking bad shots, can't capitalize when you have the man advantage. You're not winning faceoffs in the Pittsburgh game. You did against Buffalo, but what good's it doing? No line is really on fire, and you're leaving Georgiev out to dry. And now you got him kind of, just kind of floundering back there. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. You put yourself in this position.
Yeah, it's not just one thing. It's a lot of things. I like that. Okay. All right.
You'll be a Swiftie too.
It'll go on the playlist. I think there's a way to block songs on playlists, so I don't have to listen to them when I put it on random. For me, I'm going with the homeboys here, the Goo Goo Dolls, straight from Buffalo, New York. I figured I'd go with one of their songs, and they have a really great song called "Better Days." And I think that's what there's after a loss, there's so much emotion in the fan base, and I love that. But I'll get emails from people just like throwing in the towel already. And it's like, come on, guys, like they will figure it out. If you haven't learned that about this team right now after 2 losses, you either haven't been watching them for very long, or you are just 100% overreacting. It's not good. 2 losses in a row and you get shut off or shut out. You don't want that. I completely understand it. Am I thinking this is how the whole season's going to go? Definitely not. They'll be okay. They'll figure things out. They've proven it in the past. And that's why I'm going with Goo Goo Dolls' Better Days.
I'm glad you said that, Chris, because this was an afternoon game, a morning game for some. I already polished off a box of Cheez-Its and Christmas tree snack cakes in my sadness from the loss. I'm feeling it.
It's hitting you hard. Yeah.
Very hard.
Right. Well, you're going to have some Halloween candy to soak your tears into in a day here, which there might be 2 different guys hosting this show on Halloween Day. Who that could be, I guess you'll just have to tune in to find out. We shall see. All right. But that's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys on Halloween.